Hello everybody, good afternoon and welcome to the United Stand. This is the Erik Ten Hag press conference reaction for Manchester United versus Everton. And we've got some big news. ERIKSEN is back, and he's not just back training, he's back in the squad for Manchester United's game against Everton tomorrow, which is absolutely fantastic. It's absolutely incredible. It's brilliant. It's absolutely brilliant. I'm so pleased that this player's back, and I think there's so much in what Erik Ten Hag is saying in this press conference today about ERIKSEN, that it is remarkable that he's back so quickly, considering the tackle. And look, basically in this press conference, Erik Ten Hag said twice how bad that tackle was and how it really, annoyed him. He basically said, the severity of the tackle really could have been a season ender. It could have been a lot longer. And he's back, and he's back in the squad for tomorrow. So that's the major news ahead of the game tomorrow. He also spoke, I think he dropped a big transfer hint about mentality as well, which we'll talk about in a couple of minutes' time. A little bit on the Sir Jim Radcliffe beard and people getting excited about the new director of football if he comes into the club, which I think is a bit of a red herring, but we'll talk about that as well. And obviously a few other bits that Erik Ten Hag spoke about. But yeah, I think it's also, there's an update on Eric Bailly, who will be back at Man United in the summer, which I think was always going to happen. £7 million we could have sold him for. Marseille don't want to take it. It's for £7 million. It just shows you how hard it is to remove players from the club. But yes, let's hit what Erik Ten Hag had to say first. So he confirms Christian Eriksen's been back in training this week, and he will be back in the squad for the Everton game. We predicted this at the start of the week when we were doing the Brentford preview, that with Eriksen back training with the first team, ultimately Everton makes a lot of sense to have him on the bench, because ideally you want him starting against Sevilla with Casemiro next Thursday. So you've got to try and give him some game time before then. So it makes total sense to not start Eriksen tomorrow and then bring him on for maybe the last half an hour in preparation for big games ahead. He might start him. I don't know whether he will. That might be a little bit much, but he certainly gives us some much needed options in the midfield. And I think it's a real bonus to have Eriksen back this quick. It was a horrific tackle by Andy Carroll. It really should have ended the season of Eriksen. And he is back probably a month ahead of schedule. So Ten Hag was quick to call out the fitness department and also Eriksen to get back this soon. And of course, with Casemiro still suspended, at least we've got Eriksen as an option for tomorrow. So really pleased to have him back. And I think that most fans have come round to the fact of how much we've missed him, how underrated he's been. We spoke about it back in February that we're really missing Christian Eriksen. I think the thing that I've noticed, and hopefully we'll see when he's back, we're not creating as many clear-cut chances. If you look at the Brentford game in the first half, we had lots of shots. But the only real chance we created, the way you've got to score that, is Rashford's. Where was the other chance across the whole 90 minutes? Maybe the cut back to Fred. There wasn't really any chances where you've got to score that. And I think with Eriksen in the team, we were creating better chances as a team. Now, it's hard to pin that down to one player, but I think what Eriksen does is he is so good at linking the midfield with the attack, and therefore we get into better positions to create better chances. I also think Eriksen has a big part to play in the defensive side of things, that when we are playing out from the back, he is somebody who wants the ball. We miss Casemiro for that, but Eriksen wants the ball as well, and is intelligent enough when he gets the ball to know where to position himself, but also what to do with the ball. So I think we've missed Eriksen in two areas. One, I think he's got a big impact on the chances we create and the quality of the chances we create. And two, I think he's huge in relation to the transition from back to front. So yeah, absolutely brilliant. And as Just Keevan says, it's only one more game until we get Casemiro. And as I said it on Wednesday, it wasn't vintage Manchester United, but the 3 points were all that matters. I'd argue that the 3 points tomorrow is all that matters, because we know we've got better players coming back. I've just got something to tell you as well. Sean Dyche has had something to say. It might not be massively interesting, but it's always good to hear from Sean Dyche, who was speaking ahead of the game, and he said, "Look, Rashford's a very good player, of course, but they have a number of very good players. They've had a few ups and downs, but they're still a group of very good players. We've got to be ready. We've got to be clear-minded in that we need to go to a place like Old Trafford and deliver. And I'm going to deliver like Amazon, because I've got Tarkowski and McNeil." But no, that's what he's saying. Look, Everton's record in the Premier League away from home this season is shocking. Our record at home this season is very, very good. I think we've just got to go there and we haven't got to go anywhere. We're at Old Trafford. We just got to win that game, and there's bigger things to come. And I think at this stage of the season, Arsenal will be the same, Man City will be the same, Newcastle will be the same. If you can win 3 or 4-0, it's great. But if you can win 1-0 and get the points are all that matters at this point of the season, and that's what we've got to do. Absolutely. Thanks for all the happy birthday messages, by the way. Appreciate that. We've had a super chat from Oscar. He says, is Everton the last game of Casemiro's 4-game ban? Also, happy birthday. It is, Oscar. It is. And hi, Mark. I'm going to the game tomorrow. First time in a long time. Come on, United, says Rory. Lovely midday, 12:30 lunchtime kickoff tomorrow, which I think is nice when we've got the bank holiday today. Happy birthday, Mark. I've been waiting to use my monthly United Stand chat, says JM Jones, and I can't think of a better reason than that. You're a legend. Thank you very much for that. Really appreciate it. Let's go more into what Erik ten Hag had to say. So Christian Eriksen's back. Smash a like on that video. I think this is great news. I've explained why it's a great news, and I've explain what he brings to the team. In my opinion, it's the quality of chance creation goes up when Eriksen's in the team, and the transition from defence to attack. It helps us 2 ways. He's also got the right mentality, but we'll talk about that in a minute. Second thing Erik ten Hag spoke about was injuries. Luke Shaw will not play against Everton tomorrow, so we will not be playing with Luke Shaw tomorrow. He's out of the game tomorrow. That's good or bad. I think when he goes off on Wednesday against Brentford with a hamstring problem, you do start to think 4 or 5 weeks. The belief is it's not that bad, but on the other hand, if someone's felt something on Wednesday, you don't play them Saturday lunchtime. So I think it's about how Luke Shaw maybe feels early next week. If he can get back training with the first team, he'll be back playing against Sevilla on the Thursday. If it's something longer term, we'll find out probably over the weekend. So I think it's precautionary not to play him. And as Malp says, Malacia comes in. Bart just gifted a membership as well. You're a legend, Bart. I think with Malacia coming in, I don't see that as a major problem against Everton at home. I think he's still learning the job. He's not Luke Shaw, but I think I think Malacia has had a very good first season at Manchester United, considering the price we paid and where he came from. It's been a very good season for him, and he's growing in the role. Happy birthday, Mark. Can you break out the birthday suit for the boys and girls? Rory, that's just filth. Happy birthday, Mark, says Michael. Michael George, thank you very much. So no Luke Shaw tomorrow, which is obviously a little bit disappointing. Erik ten Hag was also asked about, the response to the Newcastle game, and, how do these things, I suppose, keep happening? I didn't really hear what the question was, but I certainly heard the answer. Happy birthday, Goatbridge, says Jenk. And he just said, look, basically, the Manchester United players have to deliver all the time, and they've got to be accountable. And I think this is something that Erik ten Hag is not going to move past just because we beat Brentford on Wednesday. I think that there's been numerous times this season. And look, maybe at the start of the season, you can write it off as a new team. But I think every bad result we've had post-Christmas has concerned Erik ten Hag. And you look at maybe not the Arsenal game because, it was a late winner. We didn't have Casemiro, but you look at the bad performances after that, certainly Liverpool and Newcastle, they're the 2 games where you want to make an impact. You don't want to be dealing with what he's had to deal with after Liverpool and Newcastle. Big questions about him, big questions about his selections, big questions about his players. And I get the feeling with Ten Hag, this is something that he's just not going to let drop now. And I think this is why he's talking about things like this. You've got to deliver as a Manchester United player all the time, and the players have to be accountable for that as well. Because he was then asked about mental strength and what it is that needs to happen. And he says it's about demands. It's about the standards that you set at Manchester United. The culture as a Manchester United player has to be that you are a top player that delivers always. It's about consistency. And it's my job to bring that mentality in. And I think that line, to me, can say many different things. It's my job to bring that mentality in. Now, does that to you sound like it's my job, I've got to teach people this mentality? Or does it sound like it's my job, I've got to bring that mentality in, I'm going to bring some players in again who have that mentality? Can you teach that mentality? And I think that's a really interesting line to just dissect in a moment. Mark, my friend Jack said McTominay is twice the player Casemiro is, and he offers more to the game. Do you agree? Also, happy birthday. Ali, time to get a new friend. There's nothing you can do. There's nothing you can do about people like that. You can't have a serious football conversation with someone like that. So bin them off. Happy birthday, Mark. Ten Hag's Red Army says SBL. Happy birthday, Mark, says Liam Parker. Thank you very much. So, look, Erik Ten Hag was asked about Everton, and he said, look, their physical output is very, very good. And, you know, he actually said their physical output's outstanding, and we're going to match that. I mean, you know McTominay's starting tomorrow, by the way. When Erik Ten Hag is playing Everton and he's talking about physical output, McTominay's starting his third game in a row, isn't he? So, you know, that's definitely going to happen. But the journalist said, you know, one thing that Deitch has brought into Everton is this mental strength. How do you do that at Manchester United? And he said, well, yeah, it's about demands. It's about the players' demands. It's about the standards, as I say, about as a Manchester United player. The culture has to be, as a Manchester United player, to deliver all the time. That's what top players do, who are trying to win Premier Leagues and Champions Leagues. A top player does it always, consistently. And obviously we're not doing that at the moment, and that's why Ten Hag's saying it's my job to bring that mentality in. And I do think that he's talking about bringing players in. I'm not so sure you can teach that mentality. Zarman, happy 50th birthday, and happy birthday, Mark. You're the gift that keeps on giving, says Tom Pike. Thank you. Thank you very much for those chats. I don't think it's offensive. I think Ten Hag is saying it's my job to bring that mentality in, and I don't think that you can teach that mentality to everybody. You might, if you've got 10 players that don't have the mentality, you might get I'm not 50. Don't listen to the trolls. Absolutely nowhere near. At late 30s. I'm certainly nowhere near 50. Anyway, that's a bit of a bite. But let's just say the only thing I'm biting today is a birthday cake, and it ain't got no 5s on it. There's no 5s on it. So at the end, and there's no 9s on it, and there's no 8s on it, and there's no 7s on it. There might be a 4 on it. There's no 6s on it either, and there's no 5s on it. So do the maths. There's a bit of a conundrum for you. It's like countdown. Anyway, going back to what I was talking about, I think if you've got 10 United players that don't have the mentality, and what I mean by the mentality is we know that these players, and I'm not naming them because some of them are mentality kings. Casemiro's a mentality king. Varane's a mentality king. But some of them aren't. Some of those players, and we're not going to name them, are unable to perform like Ten Hag wants every single game consistently. They're not. He even said, and look, I like Rashford, and I don't think he means Rashford, but he even said in an interview this week that Rashford's a very, very important player for us, but we've got to solve how he has games like Newcastle where he's not in the game. We have to solve that, because that's what he's talking about here. Top players do it every game. Well, Marcus Rashford didn't do it on Sunday. Most of that team didn't do it on Sunday. So it's not just the players you don't like. It's not just Harry Maguire or Scott McTominay or Fred or Bruno or any other player that maybe a lot of the fan base would move on. I don't know. I certainly wouldn't be moving Bruno on or Fred. But the reality is the best player in our team might not have the mentality that Ten Hag needs. So I think if you've got 10 players at United, whoever they are, and they don't quite have the mentality to do it every single game, I don't know whether you can teach them to do that. And I think if you can teach them to do that, you're not going to be able to teach all 10. I don't think life works like that. One thing about being my age is that I've been here for a few decades, not 5, and you see a lot of people, you work with a lot of people, you get to know a lot of people. I remember when I was when I wanted to be, when I wanted to earn money when I was 12, I got myself a paper round, and I used to get up at 6 o'clock every Monday to Friday from the age of 13 till 16, get on my bike, cycle to the next village, deliver the paper, cycle back, and I used to get paid pretty good money for doing it because it was hard work. And then I'd use that money I got every week to go into town and buy myself computer games or a nice pair of Levi's, and a lot of my friends didn't do it, and I never understood why they didn't do it, because I was like, well, if I can do it and they know I do it, and they asked me how can I afford it, and I said this is how I do it, and there are jobs going, but they didn't do it. They didn't. A couple of my mates did, but not everybody did it, and yet they didn't. They were like, oh, how do you earn 20 quid a week doing a paper round, etc., or whatever it was. Well, you just go and get yourself a paper round. That's how you do it. And they didn't do it. So I don't think you can teach mentality to everybody, because I just don't think you can. So I think when Erik Ten Hag says it's my job to bring that mentality in, I think he'll try and teach it to some. He'll realise he can't teach it to all, and he'll bring some players in that have that. I just think that's the way we're going to go. And I think that he will bring in players this summer, 100% anyway, but I think he'll be looking to bring in mentality players, which I suppose begs the question, if you're going to bring mentality players in because you haven't got enough, like he's brought Casemiro, Eriksen, Martinez, these are mentality players. If you're going to bring others in, is there not a big question mark over Harry Kane? Is Harry Kane a mentality player? Or is Osimhen a mentality player? Osimhen's about to win Serie A. He's probably going to be in a Champions League final. Harry Kane, is he a mentality player, or is he a player that next season's wearing a Man United shirt, we've just lost at Anfield, and he's putting a tweet out saying we go again? That's a great point. That's the great thing about what we do. We just wander into points that we didn't realise. But if we need to bring mentality players in, which we do, and mentality players, as we've just established by Ten Hag, are top players who do it week in, week out, is Harry Kane a top mentality player? Now, a lot of people would say, yes, he is. It's not his fault he plays for Spurs. I'm not here to say he is or he isn't. But if we're going to bring players in, I don't want players like some of the ones that we've got at the moment who can play well for 75% of the season, but when the going gets tough, they disappear. So that's interesting. I'm not so sure. I think with Harry Kane, we'll have to buy him and see whether he's got it or not. Do you see a scenario where Erik Ten Hag might try Sabitzer and Eriksen as a midfield to add a different dynamic in the centre? Depends who you're playing, Stephen. I think if you're at home against a team that's not good on the ball, like Brentford, then you could do it. But I don't think you could do that against a Spurs away or something like that. 44 is a great age, Mark. Enjoy it. I did it last year. We're in our peak for good looks and wealth, says Nick P. And happy birthday, Mark. Enjoy your day and your cake later, says Danny. Thank you very much for that. So yeah, look, I think that was the most interesting. Well, no, the most interesting part of the press conference was without doubt the bit about Christian Eriksen being back, and I enjoyed that little bit. But I did like that bit about Erik Ten Hag, and interpret it how you want. It's my job to bring that mentality in. I don't think you can teach mentality to everybody. If he's lucky, and I think Rashford's a prime example, I think he can take Rashford from what he is at the moment, which is brilliant, to doing it every single week. That's what he's got to do. And I think with someone like Rashford, you might be able to do it. But can you do it with everybody? I don't think you can. So I think he's going to have to bring some players in, and that's what he will do. So I think that when you're looking at the players that are going to come into Manchester United this summer, I think you're looking at mentality players. And we spoke about one this morning, Alexis McAllister. I think he has got that mentality to do it week in, week out. It's not always about ability. People think, oh yeah, we're not going to get Mbappe or something like that. Levels are different. But you can find an average player that plays average every week. Like that's mentality. May the size of your dreams only be surpassed by the magnitude of your accomplishments. Happy birthday, Mark. Love from Nigeria, says AO. Thank you very much, mate. There was a couple of other things I wanted to just bring in as well. Let me see if I can just find it for you. Yeah, so L'Equipe or L'Equipe, or however you pronounce it, have reported this morning Jim Radcliffe has appointed sports director Jean-Claude Blanc. He will have huge Manchester United role if the bid is successful. Blanc has previously worked at Juventus and PSG. It's not Laurent Blanc, it's Jean-Claude Blanc. Now, it's a story. A few people have said he's actually been part of the Ineos group for longer than, it's not a new appointment. A lot of people just say we want Qatar. Look, if Sir Jim Radcliffe gets hold of Manchester United and he brings a proper director of football in, happy days. If Sir Jim Radcliffe gets hold of Manchester United and brings a proper CEO in, happy days. But ultimately, I don't think it really has. Well, one, it has got nothing to do with us, and two, it's not going to make me want Sir Jim, if I'm honest. And I'm not massively saying I want Alfani, but he's the only one who represents wealth, which is what we need because of the mess the Glazers have left over 17 years. We have to spend $2 billion on a stadium. We have to spend $500 million on the squad. We have to spend $1 billion to clear the debt. And we have to spend about $1 billion on infrastructure. So whoever comes into this club has got to spend $5 billion on top of buying the club. Now, we don't know what Sir Jim has to do that. He's borrowing money through Ineos to even buy the club. So where's the $5 billion coming that we need? Is the debt being cleared? So, look, I just think this is what I mean. I think it's just it's almost like seasoning a turd in some sense. And I'm not saying Sir Jim Ratcliffe's bid's a turd, but what I'm saying is sometimes something stinks and people season it to try and make out that it doesn't. We don't know enough about Sir Jim Ratcliffe's bid for us to go, I like that director of football, I want Sir Jim to get the job. Because what's more important? I'd rather keep John Murtagh as director of football and somebody clear the debt, build the stadium, back the manager, than somebody sack John Murtagh for a decent director of football, but keep the debt, not spend money, and not build a stadium. So, look, the most important thing here is, in my opinion, is not to get sidetracked by directors of footballs or CEOs or, painting the fence or whatever. I think the reality is what we need is headlines. We need the headline things doing. We're going to build a new stadium. We're going to reduce the debt. We're going to invest in the manager big time, and we're going to invest in the infrastructure. And the only person who's basically said they're going to do that to big, big, big numbers is the Qatari bid. So that's the one that logically still stands out, but we won't choose. Jake says, who would you say already has mentality in our squad? Casemiro and Varane, Martinez and Anthony. Not many of our squad have won things consistently, says Jake. I think it's a great question, and I'm not going to duck it. I think that when you go through that United side, I think David De Gea's got the mentality. I'm not scratching my neck because I'm lying. I actually have got a scratch. No, I think David De Gea has got the mentality. I do. I think he is a leader, and I think he has got the mentality. I think it's sometimes easier to have a mentality when you're a goalkeeper. Most goalkeepers are very self-assured and confident because it's an isolating job. Delot, I think, can have it. I think he's learning it, and I think Delot can have it, but he's still learning the game. Varane's got it. Martinez has got it. Luke Shaw, I think, does have it, but he is still capable of putting in a bad performance. That's Luke Shaw's growth. Casemiro's got it. Eriksen's got it. Bruno's got it, but like Luke Shaw, still can have a bad game. I think with Luke Shaw and Bruno and Rashford, they've got it, but they can't harness it consistently. 80-90% of the time, Bruno, Luke Shaw and Rashford are absolutely bang on, but there's still the occasional game like Anfield and St James's Park where they disappear. Those three are the ones I think Ten Hag can teach it to, because they're not quite at the level of a Casemiro or a Varane. And people will say, well, look, Varane didn't play well at Anfield. Casemiro didn't play well at Anfield. But it's a different kind of playing well, isn't it? I think sometimes Rashford, Bruno, Shaw, they almost disappear into terrible performances where you can still see Casemiro battling, even though he's not playing well. Anthony, I think, has the potential to have it. He's just adjusting to the Premier League, and we need a striker. So we're not that far off. It's the wider squad. Fred has got it because he works hard, but Fred can't harness a good performance consistently. Like, I've seen Fred be crap in the first half and brilliant in the second half because he never stops trying. So he's got the mentality to never give in. Has he got the ability to be consistent? Other bench players that've got it, they're either young players like Garnacho, I think, who can learn it, or people like Sancho who have to deliver it. And then the rest of them, I just think it's ability. I mean, it's very hard to judge the mentality. Well, look, Maguire says he's got nothing to prove, so he hasn't got the mentality, has he? But he also hasn't got the ability. Lindelof, I think, isn't quite good enough to play for us. Same with McTominay, who I think does try. So mentality is one thing, but also ability is another. But no, I think from the first team, we've probably covered it. I think Frederick says Fred's on and off. I think Fred's got it. I just don't think he has the ability. I think I've got it. I think most of you've got it. Put me in a Man United shirt, I'll never stop running. I'll never stop trying, but I'll be total pants. So mentality is not, I think it's really, we've sort of gone into a mentality show, but mentality is not, and Ten Hag would agree with this, mentality is not necessarily about ability. You can have the mentality but not have the ability. Now, what Ten Hag actually wants, you've got to have the ability and then you've got to have the mentality. And unfortunately, some of our players have the ability but don't quite have the mentality. Some of our players have the mentality but don't have the ability. And some of them have neither. Kane looking for a squad to justify his talent. Osman young and hungry, hunting titles. I know who I want. Happy birthday, says Nate. Thank you very much for that. We share the same birthday. Happy birthday, says Rudolph the Red. Hope you're doing well, mate. Not heard from you in a while, which is great to hear. But look, I'm so happy that Erik Ten Hag has Christian Eriksen back. I think it's a massive... Well, we have Christian Eriksen back. And I think tomorrow, as I said on the preview, if you didn't watch it yesterday, I think tomorrow, as long as we win that game, I don't really care how we play. because I think better times are coming with Eriksen, Casemiro back. Hopefully Martial's going to stay fit. I think better times and better performances are coming, and I think tomorrow it really is just about getting the 3 points. Anywho, thanks everybody for watching. That's your Erik Ten Hag press conference reaction. Some good stuff in there. Make sure you smash a like on the video and subscribe. Thanks to everyone for all the happy birthday messages. I'm going to go out and have a meal now, actually. Links in the video description for something. I don't know what is in there. But if you want to join the members club or anything like that, you can click the join button. Happy birthday, Mark. Have a good one, says Barn. Well, I hope you all have a good one, whatever you're doing. I'll speak to you all in a bit. And obviously, if anything breaks, we'll go live as well. And don't forget, the match tomorrow is an early one, so we'll be live for that. I don't think Eriksen will play tomorrow, Akash. And happy Friday, Mark, says Brian. Cheers, everyone.